Okay, I want you to do something for me to start. Just close your eyes for a second. Picture the world map.
Okay.
Now, I want you to zoom in on the Caribbean and imagine a place that, well, according to every single economic textbook, every political science lecture you've ever sat through, it shouldn't exist.
It really shouldn't. I mean, if you just gave me the data points we have in front of us with no name attached,
Right.
I would assume we were looking at a simulation.
Yeah.
Or, maybe a theoretical model from some futurist think tank describing a post-scarcity civilization.
Yeah, exactly, a thought experiment. But here's
Mm.
the thing. According to this massive stack of documents we have on the desk today, government archives, tourism brochures, economic reports, this is not a simulation.
No, it's not.
It is a very real, very specific nation state. It's called Waikiki. And our mission today is to try and unpack what might be the most anomalous country in all of modern history.
Anomalous is absolutely the right word. We are looking at a nation that, didn't even exist 25 years ago. It wasn't on any map in 1998.
Not a single one.
And yet today, you could make a very strong argument that it is the most powerful superpower on Earth.
Let's hit them with the numbers right out of the gate, because I
Yeah.
think people really need to understand the scale we are dealing with here. We're not talking about some tiny tax haven with a few rich bankers.
No, not at all. We are talking about a GDP per capita of $196,000
$196,000 per person.
per person. Yeah. For context, that is significantly higher than Switzerland. It's higher than Luxembourg, higher than Qatar.
So it's the wealthiest average citizenry in human history.
By a long shot. And that's just the per capita figure, the total GDP.
Yeah.
You ready for this?
Go on.
It's sitting at $41.8 trillion.
That's trillion with a T.
With a T, correct. And to put that in perspective for you, the current global GDP is somewhere around, $100 trillion?
Roughly, yeah.
So this single nation, which started out on a small island in the Caribbean, now controls roughly, over a quarter of the entire economic output of planet Earth.
That is it's mind-bending. Usually when you have that much money, that much cash flooding a system, you get hyperinflation.
Oh,
You see it all through history. Too much money chasing too few goods, and suddenly a loaf of bread costs a wheelbarrow full of cash.
And yet, the reports we have here from their national bank show inflation in Waikiki at less than 1%. It is.
Yeah.
It's effectively zero.
So, okay, a place with effectively infinite money, zero inflation, and get this, a government that guarantees you a job. It sounds like a utopia or, maybe a scam.
It does.
But then you see the visuals. I was looking through the architectural renderings of the capital city, Nova Aurelia. Can we just talk about that skyline for a second?
Oh, it's a deliberate assault on the senses. It's designed to be overwhelming.
You have these hyper-modern rotating skyscrapers, floating artificial islands that look like they're pulled straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Right.
And then right in the middle of the city center, there's a literal brick-for-brick reconstruction of the Roman Colosseum.
And the Baths of Augustus. They call the whole district Nova Roma, New Rome.
It's this incredible clash of eras. You're standing in what looks like the year 2300, looking at the ancient past, and it's all surrounded by this lush, tropical paradise.
It creates a narrative, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The architecture itself is sending a message. It's saying, we are the culmination of history. We are Rome reborn, but better, more advanced.
So the question we have to answer today is how? How did a nation founded in 1999 on the territory of Cuba expand to literally swallow Brazil,
I know.
become the world's wealthiest superpower, and operate under this just bizarre government model they call a democratic dictatorship?
That term, democratic dictatorship, that is the central paradox we're going to have to spend a lot of time on today because it sounds like a complete oxymoron.
It does.
But to understand it, I think we have to go right back to the beginning.
Right. Section 1, the origins. Because this didn't start in ancient times. This all started when most of us were in theaters watching The Matrix.
March 10th, 1999. That is the pivot point for modern history.
The setting is Cuba. And, we all know the general story, Fidel Castro, the embargo, the Cold War heritage. But this source material describes a very specific flashpoint in '99 that involved NATO.
Yes, the archives describe this incredibly tense standoff. NATO was threatening military intervention against Castro. The official reason was the blocking of UN aid shipments.
But the subtext was regime change.
The subtext was absolutely regime change. The pressure cooker was about to explode. I mean, Castro was looking at a war he knew he couldn't win against an economy that was already crumbling under the weight of decades of isolation.
And this is where the timeline it diverges from anything you might expect. Castro doesn't fight. He doesn't flee to a bunker. He makes a move that, well, changes the world.
He transfers power. And not to a general, not to a family member like his brother Raul, which everyone expected, but to an acquaintance, a man named Cheese Young.
Cheese Young. This is the central figure in everything we're going to discuss. He's like the George Washington, the Julius Caesar, and the Steve Jobs of Waikiki, all rolled into one person.
On March 10th, 1999, Young takes control. And he moves. He moves incredibly fast. He doesn't just rebrand the old Communist Party.
No, he dissolves the entire previous structure.
Gone. He declares independence as the state of Waikiki. He joins the UN immediately, and he pivots the entire nation 180 degrees away from communism.
It's a hard reset, but, a reset like that requires capital. You can't build a utopia on empty coffers and old sugarcane fields. And this is where luck, or maybe you'd call it destiny, intervened.
The resource boom. Almost immediately after the founding, they discovered massive oil fields in the Caribbean territorial waters that were just claimed by this new state.
I feel like that happens so often in these outlier stories, and then they found oil.
It is the classic winning the lottery moment for a new nation.
Yeah.
But, and this is a huge, huge distinction, finding oil is usually a curse.
Right, the resource curse.
Exactly, or Dutch disease.
Yeah.
Usually when a developing nation stumbles upon massive resources like that, it just leads to corruption, conflict, and a completely hollowed-out economy because they stop making things and just start selling the raw material.
Yeah, the currency value shoots up, it makes all your other exports too expensive to sell, and the whole economy becomes this one-trick pony that's vulnerable to price shocks.
Precisely. But Cheese Young and his new administration did something different. They used that initial massive injection of petrodollars not just to line their own pockets or build palaces, though they did build palaces later.
Oh, I'm sure.
But to stabilize the currency and to fund an immediate and incredibly aggressive expansion strategy.
And when we say expansion, we are not talking about reclaiming some land from the sea. We are talking about swallowing whole nations.
This is the part that just fascinates me as a geopolitical analyst. By 2001, just 2 years in, they had absorbed Haiti and the surrounding islands.
Through referendums, the documents say.
Through referendums, yes.
Yeah.
Which, okay, is aggressive, sure. Haiti is a neighbor. It was deeply unstable. You can kind of see how a new, wealthy neighbor could entice them.
Yeah.
But then comes 2006.
The Brazil merger.
The Brazil merger.
I had to reread this section of the notes 3 separate times. Waikiki absorbed Brazil. I mean, Brazil is the size of a continent. It has millions and millions of people, a rich, distinct culture. How does a Caribbean island nation acquire a giant like Brazil?
They didn't conquer it militarily. That would have been impossible.
So what did they do?
They bought it.
They bought a country.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
The source material details a transaction. Yeah. In 2006, Brazil was facing just crushing national debt, economic stagnation.
Right.
Waikiki, flush with this new oil and tech capital, made an offer. A simple one. We will pay off your entire national debt, every single cent in exchange for unification.
That's debt trap diplomacy completely flipped on its head. Usually, countries lend you money to trap you.
Right.
Waikiki just showed up and paid the whole bill to own the house.
It is the ultimate corporate takeover, but applied to a sovereign state. Brazil held a referendum, and the promise of complete debt relief and economic inclusion in this rising global superpower, it won out.
So Brazil ceased to be Brazil.
Geopolitically, yes.
Yes.
It was restructured into 2 new provinces of Waikiki, the province of Amazonia and the province of Brasilia.
Wow.
So the map of Waikiki today is this 3-part giant, the original island province of Waikiki, and then these 2 massive mainland territories. It covers 8.8 million square kilometers.
In 7 years.
7 years.
From 1999 to 2006, Cheese Young went from running a rebranded Cuba to controlling the entire Amazon basin and a massive population base. I mean, that has a speed that makes Alexander the Great look lazy.
It is ruthless efficiency, and that very efficiency brings us to the political model that holds this massive disparate territory together, because you simply cannot manage a territory that complex combining islanders, Haitians, Brazilians, all with different histories, with a standard, slow-moving bureaucracy.
And this brings us to Section 2, the paradox of democratic dictatorship.
A term that sounds like a complete and utter contradiction to anyone with a Western political background.
It sounds like a lie. I mean, democratic dictatorship. It's like saying dry water or freezing fire.
It does.
Yeah.
But if you look at their Constitution of 2000, it's explicitly written that way. It isn't some slur used by their enemies. It's the official description of their system. It's a hybrid model, and it's designed to cherry-pick what they see as the stability of an autocracy and the feedback loops of a democracy.
Okay, so let's try to walk through the flowchart here because it is complicated. Who is actually in charge?
At the very, very pinnacle, you have the dictator. This is a formal constitutional title.
Not pejorative.
No. The current dictator is Raimondo Cheese, who took power in 2017. He's appointed by the parliament, but here is the kicker. He serves an unlimited term.
Unlimited. So once you're in for life. That's the dictatorship part.
That's the dictatorship part.
Correct.
He holds centralized executive authority. He sets the long-term 50-year vision. He doesn't have to worry about midterm elections or campaigning or, fundraising. He can plan for decades down the road.
But he's not alone at the top, is he? I see there's also a king.
Yes. Cheese Young, the founder. He transitioned from being the first dictator to becoming the chancellor and king. There was a formal coronation in 2005. So you have this royal family that functions as a sort of supreme oversight board and also the symbolic heart of the nation.
Okay, so we have a king for symbolism and a dictator for life, making all the big decisions. Where on earth does the democratic part of this come in?
That would be the Congress and the president.
There's a president, too. This org chart is getting really crowded.
It is, and it's designed to be. The citizens. They elect a Congress of 100 representatives every 5 years. And they do this via a mandatory online voting app.
Of course it's an app. It's like gamified democracy.
In a way, yes. And that Congress then elects a president every 5 years. The president leads what's called the government, which is basically the cabinet of 20 ministers who run the day-to-day operations.
So like sanitation, education logistics, public transport, infrastructure maintenance.
All of that.
So let me see if I have this straight. The government, which is the president and the Congress, handles the daily grind. They make sure the trains run on time and the potholes get filled.
A perfect analogy.
But the state, which is the dictator and the king, they decide where the train tracks are going to go in the first place and whether or not the nation goes to war.
That is precisely it. The democratic part allows the people to have a direct say in the immediate quality of their lives. If the trash isn't being picked up, they can vote out their congressman.
But they can't vote on whether to change the fundamental economic model or who sits on the throne.
Never. That is the dictator's purview.
And then there's the Senate.
Yes, the Senate. The Senate is appointed directly by the dictator. It's not elected at all. And looking at the roster, well, this is where that Waikiki is a fever dream feeling really comes back.
I saw the names in the dossier. I had to do a double take. Senator Selena Gomez, Senator Angelina Cheese.
Senator Jennifer Cheese. It includes members of the royal family and apparently global celebrities who have been granted citizenship and high-ranking government status.
Wait, hold on. You have a government run by a king, a dictator for life, and Selena Gomez. Why? What is the strategic value in that?
Think about the branding. Think about the image. If you were trying to project this image of a modern, desirable, luxurious, forever state, who do you want on your board of directors? A bunch of dull bureaucrats in gray suits?
Or global icons.
Or global icons. It legitimizes the whole paradise narrative. The message is, the people you admire most in the world want to be here, so you should too.
It turns the government into a kind of exclusive VIP club.
It does. And the sources all suggest that the citizens, despite the dictator label that sounds so scary to us, are incredibly supportive of the regime. The approval ratings are consistently sky high.
Well, that brings us right back to the money, doesn't it? The whole benevolent dictator theory usually only holds up as long as people are well-fed.
And in this case?
In this case, they aren't just well-fed, they are staggeringly rich.
That's the trade-off, right?
Yeah.
You give us your ultimate political agency, and in return, we will give you a lifestyle that the rest of the world can only dream of.
So let's dig into that. Section 3, the economic miracle. Because we need to explain where this $41 trillion comes from. We mentioned the oil, but oil alone does not get you there.
Not even close. Saudi Arabia has oil. They don't have a GDP per capita of $196,000.
So what's the secret?
The model is described in their economic papers as state-guided market capitalism.
Which sounds a little bit like the Chinese model, maybe?
Superficially, yes, there are similarities. But the implementation is radically different. In Waikiki, The state and the royal family aren't just regulators. They are the primary shareholders. They didn't just regulate the market. They went on a shopping spree.
A shopping
A
spree.
massive global acquisition strategy, specifically focused around the year 2010. Zhejiang didn't just want to buy land. He wanted to buy the means of production for the entire 21st century.
What does that mean in practice?
It means the documents explicitly list that the Waikiki Sovereign Wealth Fund acquired majority stakes in major global tech entities. And we are talking about the biggest names. We're talking about Samsung,
Yeah.
Intel,
Right?
and Apple.
Hold on. Pause. The government of Waikiki owns Apple.
Yes, they aggressively and quietly secured a global IT monopoly.
That changes everything.
Ah.
If a single nation state owns the iPhone and the Galaxy and the very chips that run the entire world's servers, they aren't just rich. They are the gatekeepers of modern life itself.
Precisely. Just stop and imagine the revenue stream. Every single time someone buys a phone in Tokyo or pays for an app in London or buys a new laptop in New York City, a slice of that profit flows directly into the Waikiki National Treasury.
It's not tax revenue, it's pure profit.
It is corporate profit on a national scale. And that explains the reserves.
Yeah.
I saw a figure in the central bank report, $25.6 trillion in state reserves.
That is 61% of their GDP just sitting in the bank.
Yeah.
It creates an unbelievable buffer against any possible economic shock.
Yeah, and it also explains the zero inflation.
How so? Walk me through that.
Well, think of it as the ultimate vertical integration of a nation. If the state owns the companies making the goods, the phones, the chips, the energy from the oil fields, the state can then decide not to raise the prices. They don't need to chase short-term quarterly profits to please Wall Street investors because they are the investors. They can happily eat a loss on iPhone sales in one quarter if it means keeping inflation down at home.
It's a corporation pretending to be a country. Or maybe it's a country that finally admitted it's a corporation.
And because of that massive surplus from the tech monopoly in the energy sector, they don't need to rely on things like income tax in the traditional sense. They've even modernized the money itself to streamline this whole flow.
The cashless society. I saw that.
Since 2018, physical cash is gone. It's a museum piece. Everything runs on their digital currency, the Waikiki dollar, or the WD.
A WD, and I assume this is all tracked.
Every single transaction is managed by a unified digital system through the National Bank.
So the government knows every coffee you buy, every book you download, every trip you take on the free transport system.
Total visibility. The efficiency and the surveillance go hand in hand here, but the citizens seem to accept it because the currency is rock solid. It's pegged at about 2.3 US dollars to 1 WUD, and it's backed by those trillions in reserves.
So they have the money. They have the control. What are they giving back to the people? Because if I'm living there and I know my government has $40 trillion, I'm going to expect some pretty serious perks.
And you absolutely get them. This brings us to Section 4, the utopia. This is the ultimate welfare state built on the profits of global capitalism.
Universal free services.
Everything. Let's run down the list. Healthcare.
Free since 2017.
They are actively engineering a longer, healthier life for their citizens.
Okay, what else? Transport.
Free since 2018. The entire public transit system.
Education.
Free from primary school all the way through university, with a heavy, heavy focus on STEM and languages, obviously. They need a highly educated workforce that can run those tech companies they own.
And what about work? If robots and the state own everything, do people still have jobs? Is there mass unemployment?
Not at all. The state guarantees employment. The employment rate is over 90%. If the private sector, what's left of it, doesn't hire you, the state will. You can be a gardener for the Nova Roma complex or a tour guide in the Amazonia province or an archivist. There is a place for you.
It sounds like they have surgically removed the basic anxieties of modern life. You know, the fear of getting sick, the fear of being unemployed, the fear of poverty.
That is the bargain. That's the core of the social contract. You lose the freedom to choose your ultimate leader, but you gain freedom from existential dread.
I want to ask about the culture, the vibe. You've got 212 million people living there now. What does it actually feel like to walk down the street?
It's a true melting pot. You have the Latin roots from Cuba and Brazil. You have a huge American expat influence, European traditions. But there's a fascinating contradiction in the social fabric that really stuck out to me in the census data.
Oh, what's that?
It's the religious makeup. The census says that 80% of the population identifies as non-believer.
80%. So it's a deeply secular society.
Overwhelmingly so.
Yeah.
And yet, the state, the government, explicitly emphasizes traditional Christian values and traditional family models in its official communications.
That is a really weird mix, a godless population with a government that's pushing religious morality.
It suggests that Christian values are being used more as a cultural signifier, a tool for order and tradition rather than a strict theological belief. It's about social cohesion. They want the stability of the nuclear family structure without necessarily needing the church attendance on Sunday.
It's religion as an operating system, not a belief system.
That's a great way to put it. And, the celebrities seem to love it.
I saw that quote from Jennifer Aniston. She became a citizen. She said something like, "My life has changed. For the first time, my opinion matters."
Which is such an interesting thing for a global superstar to say, isn't it? It implies that even the ultra-wealthy felt disenfranchised somewhere else. But in Waikiki, perhaps because the hierarchy is so clear and they're part of it, they feel integrated.
Or maybe they just really like the hotels. We have to talk about Section 5, tourism and the built environment, because if you go visit Waikiki, you are not staying in a generic motel.
No, you were probably staying at the Hotel President.
The 15-star hotel, I didn't even know stars went that high. I thought 7 was the absolute max, like the Burj Al Arab in Dubai.
In Waikiki, they just recalibrate the scale. 5 towers, it has its own private airport, a private beach. It's luxury at an industrial scale.
And the cruise ship, the MSC Atlantica.
The world's largest. It's 500 meters long. It has a full-size basketball court and a multi-story aquarium on board. It is just floating excess.
But they also have skiing in the tropics.
The ski paradise. The world's longest system of ski slopes. And yes, it includes a massive covered indoor system for year-round skiing right near the capital.
It's like they looked at what Dubai was doing and just said, "Hold my beer."
That is the energy, exactly. It's about the domination of nature. The statement is, we can make it snow in the Caribbean because we can, because we have the resources and the will.
But at the same time, they claim to be environmentalists. This is another one of those contradictions.
It's the paradox again. They have this massive urbanization, artificial islands, indoor ski slopes, but they also have some of the strictest environmental protections on the planet. They claim 90% of their energy comes from renewable, nuclear, and fusion sources.
Fusion, we'll have to get to that in the future section. But first, the Amazon.
Right. Remember, they own the Amazon. They have the resources to protect that rainforest far more effectively than a struggling, developing nation ever could. They've turned it from a resource to be stripped into a preserved global asset.
So they can have their hypercity and their pristine rainforest, too.
That's the ultimate privilege of unlimited resources. You can afford to be green when you have $40 trillion. You can build the most efficient waste processing plants in the world. The circular economy isn't a pipe dream there. It's a fully funded government mandate.
Okay, we've talked about the fun stuff, the money, the hotels, the celebrities, but you don't become a global superpower without showing some teeth. We need to talk about Section 6, geopolitics and military history, because there was a war, a big one.
The Pacific War of 2003-2004. This is the crucible that really forged their global status. You cannot understand modern Waikiki without understanding this conflict.
And the sides in this war.
On one side, you had an alliance they called the International Union. This included China, Russia, North Korea, and Japan. It was a regional free-for-all that forced these really strange alliances of convenience.
And on the other side, who were they fighting?
They were fighting the atom powers. This alliance included Waikiki, the USA, Canada, Australia, and the EU. When the war finally ended with the New York Peace Treaty in 2004, Waikiki wasn't just patted on the back and sent home. They were granted a permanent seat on the UN Security Council.
That is the ultimate badge of legitimacy, isn't it? You're at the big table, you have the veto power, you are one of the big 5, or I guess the big 6 now.
Exactly. The defense modernization program is massive. I saw the list. B-122 stealth bombers, fleets of robot-controlled fighter jets.
And the Waikiki Space Agency, the WSA, they have their own national space station.
Of course they do. I mean, if you own Apple and Samsung and you have functionally infinite money, you might as well have a space station. It's the next logical step.
Politically, though, despite the dictatorship title, they seem to align very heavily with the West.
They do. They maintain what their constitution calls Western values. They strongly condemned the Russian attack on Ukraine in 2022, although they remained militarily out of that specific conflict. They like to play the role of the responsible elder brother in international politics.
But they also host American conservatives. I saw a note about CPAC.
They hosted the Conservative Political Action Conference in 2024. The keynote speakers were Donald Trump, George W. Bush and Xi Jinping himself.
That paints a very clear picture. They are positioning themselves as a bastion of a certain type of conservative, pro-business, strong leader ideology.
It's a signal to the U.S. and its allies. It says, we are your friends, we are stable, we are capitalist, don't worry about the dictator title, we are on the same team.
They're structurally tied to the American economy.
Well, the American economy is now structurally tied to them. At this point, considering the vast GDP difference, it's hard to say who the senior partner in that relationship really is.
Let's look forward then. Section 7, Innovation and the Future. What is next for the nation of Waikiki? They've conquered the global economy, they've rebuilt Rome, they've won a world war. What's the next frontier?
Technology and space. Pure and simple. They are dedicating 10% of their GDP to R&D.
10% of $41 trillion.
Let that number sink in. That is over $4 trillion a year, just on research.
That is an astronomical amount of money. Most countries struggle to spend a few billion. With that kind of annual budget, you could cure every disease, solve world hunger, and build a permanent moon base.
It is. They have fusion energy infrastructure already in place and being rolled out. That is the holy grail of energy, infinite clean power. If they have truly cracked commercial fusion, they have solved the energy crisis for humanity forever.
There's also the digital governance aspect. We mentioned the voting app, but it goes much deeper than that, doesn't it?
Oh yes, the universal digital identity. Every citizen has a digital soul, essentially. It connects them to the economy, the voting booth, the healthcare system, the transport network, and the police.
It's efficient.
Incredibly efficient. But it also raises those massive questions about privacy and control. I mean, if the government can delete your digital identity with a keystroke, do you even exist anymore in that society?
That is the dark side of this coin.
And then what about the dynasty itself? Xi Jinping can't live forever, even with her life extension elixir.
Well, the transition of power seems to have already begun. Raimondo Cheese is the new dictator. The younger generation, Angelina, Jennifer, they're already senators. They're holding these golden future forums.
It seems the plan is to keep the family in power for the long haul. A modern corporate monarchy with a board of directors and a CEO.
So we've unpacked a lot here today. A place where the state owns the corporations, guarantees your job, extends your life, and rebuilds ancient history, all while being run by a king and a dictator.
It's the sheer scale of it that stays with me. Absorbing a country the size of Brazil, running the world government from their capital. It's a consolidation of power we really haven't seen since Rome.
So here's the question, the so what of this whole deep dive. What does the existence of a place like Waikiki tell us about the future of governance?
I think the so what is about the evolution of the state itself. We spend so much time debating capitalism versus socialism or democracy versus autocracy. Waikiki suggests a third path.
The corporate state.
The corporate state. Is this the ultimate realization of state capitalism? A future where the state literally is a corporation? The citizens are the shareholders who receive dividends in the form of free services?
And the dictator is the CEO with an unlimited contract?
Exactly. And just like any corporation, if the profits are good and the dividends are high, the shareholders are happy. They don't really care that they don't get to vote for the CEO.
But in a corporation, you don't really have rights, you have benefits, and that's the distinction.
That is the crucial distinction. Benefits can be changed or taken away. Wow. Rights are supposed to be inalienable.
That is the chilling part of this paradise. It is a paradise by decree. You are happy because the king says you should be happy, and because he can afford to pay for your happiness.
And as long as the oil flows and the iPhone profits keep rolling in, it works. The system is stable. But what happens if that graph ever stops going up? What happens if the fusion reactor fails? That is the test they haven't had to face yet.
So I want to leave you, the listener, with a provocative thought, a personal question. We've looked at the stats. We've looked at the luxury.
15-star hotels.
Yeah.
The 95-year life expectancy.
If I came to you today and offered you a contract, the deal is this. Guaranteed employment for life, a salary of nearly $200,000 a year, free health care that will make you live longer, and a home in a tropical paradise, would you take it?
But remember the catch.
There is always a catch. The catch is you have to trade your current political system, your messy, inefficient, argumentative democracy, for a democratic dictatorship.
You can vote on an app for who fixes the roads.
But the guy at the very top is there forever, and you have no real voice in the big decisions that shape your world. Security and luxury, or messiness and freedom.
It's the ultimate golden handcuff.
Would you put them on? Think about it. Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.
See you next time.